All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
You've reached the internet's home for all things masonry. Join On the Level podcast as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft and try to unlock the mysteries, dispel the fallacies, and utilize the teachings of Freemasonry to unlock the greatness within each of us.
I have you now.
Let's go! Yes!
All right. Welcome back to On the Level podcast. How are you, brother?
I am doing fantastic, Christopher G. Burns, and we are joined today by none other than the great, the legendary, right worshipful Rick Wendling. Brother, how are you?
What's going on, guys and brothers?
What's up? All right. This is going to be exciting, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Looks like he's in his mobile command center today.
Yeah.
Mobile command center. You know, no joke. My dad actually bought an RV back in the day, and he wrote it off on the business as a mobile command center.
Nice.
Like, not even kidding.
It's actually clever.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So we haven't had as esteemed a guest as you on in quite a while on the podcast. Thank you for joining us. We
I want to go
greatly
that far,
appreciate
but
it.
absolutely. My pleasure.
Yes. This just happened. There's some breaking news, and we tend to record like months before our stuff gets released, but this just happened last week, and I think we can get this podcast out relatively quickly. We had ruling decision number 1. And then yesterday, I think we got another one. We got directive number 2. So my first question is, what's the difference between a ruling and decision and a directive?
Well, a ruling and decision is the Grand Master's interpretation of the Constitution and or the digest. And that goes for vote at Grand Lodge under the jurisprudence report.
Okay. And a directive is kind of like an executive order.
So basically what this ruling and decision 1 did is basically what this did is it totally nulled and voided that stuff that happened back in 2024 and completely restored everybody. As a matter of fact, if you scroll down,
trials that were associated with the interpretation of the digest under that ruling decision that happened regarding Chapter 44, 23.8, taking testimony, all that stuff was irregular. All Masonic trials, convictions, and sentences, including suspensions, expulsions, reprimands, and other penalties that were based on whole or in part upon the overturned ruling and decision number 3, interpreting regulation 46.2 on a hereby declared irregular, null, and void, as you said. And basically no other trials can be had about that. And they directed the Grand Secretary to immediately notify every particular lodge and affected brother, expunge all or correct all Grand Lodge and Lodge records accordingly, and issue current dues cards to the restored brothers.
The one that I actually like the most is at point number 5. Every brother affected by any such trial or sentence is hereby restored to full and good standing in his particular lodge and in this grand jurisdiction effective immediately, with all rights, privileges, and membership status reinstated as though the proceedings had never occurred. The way this reads, I love the way that this reads, because it's like we're fixing something and we're going to fix it with aggression. The way this thing reads is powerful. I love it.
He's definitely came out swinging with ruling and decision number 1.
He did, man. Most Worshipful Vest is a baller. That guy is a gangster. I love it.
You know what's funny is when he was running very first time, he came to I happened to be the president of the Master Mason Association. So I had to coordinate with him to give his speech. And I was like, I'd never seen a guy smile as much as he smiled the whole time. I don't know if he's actually having fun or if he's got a condition, but he smiles a lot. And he doesn't talk much. Like, I never heard from him after that.
And meanwhile, you've got Most Worshipful Tally that I think he has the same face every time I've ever spoken to him and talked to him.
Really?
It's just like he is just like the same face no matter what. Even in pictures, it's just that face.
Yeah, so this is a good thing, I think. Ruling, and then we got just came out directive number 2, which is basically just reaffirming everything that was said, that we need to hold our trials properly and according to our methodology. And this directive number 2 is issued to reinforce our collective commitment to truth, justice, and the preservation of harmony within the craft.
And the American way.
And faithful observance of the digest will afford the answers to practically all questions that may arise in the conduct of Masonic affairs. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Having been through a trial, I could see how if it was followed properly and everyone did things the way they were supposed to, a lot of things would have been resolved very quickly. So I don't know why number 2 came out, because number 1 was pretty clear and where he stood on this. That's why I was asking you, right, Worshipful, why or what's the difference between a directive and a ruling decision? I said maybe there's some legislative reason that he needed to do it as a directive instead of a ruling and decision.
Right. A ruling and decision is the Grand Master's interpretation of the digest. But anyway, the ruling and decision gets voted on the craft, the Constitution. Thank you.
And then it becomes, and then it becomes part of our law after the craft votes on it, right?
Correct. Where directive ends when the new Grand Master gets installed. So it's only good for his year. A directive is. Ruling and decision, once it's approved by the craft, it becomes law.
Okay, so we're going to be voting on ruling and decision 1 at next Grand Lodge, correct?
Correct.
Cool.
Yes, because it's his interpretation of the Constitution.
And the directive is kind of just an executive order of, hey, during my year, this is how I want things to operate.
Correct. And most Worshipful Vest, and I am pretty sure the rest of the Grand Lodge line are all on the same mindset, where if anybody needs to get into our penal affairs, we need fair and impartial trials. And that's what we're striving for.
I agree with that.
Yes. Having been through the opposite of that, I can tell you, it's the pillar of Freemasonry, really. To accuse a brother is a pretty serious thing. And we got to follow all the steps and the rules to make sure that it's a fair process. And then everybody be happy with the outcome. I mean, wait, I take that back. Everyone will respect the outcome.
Correct.
If there's one thing I've learned about Masons is you are never going to make 100% of them happy.
It's
impossible.
What?
All we can ask for is respect. I mean, whatever you think you've been through, I'm sure that this brother right here has been through 10 times that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would. Here's the thing. I know I've only been a Mason for about 2.5 years, Master Mason for about 2.5 years. So I am fully aware, like everything that I've seen, y'all guys have probably seen 10 times, if not 20 times.
I think we can all agree that we all went through a very, what is the word?
Unprecedented.
A very unprecedented time in Freemasonry together. Yes.
Yes.
So that was probably new for all of us. And we all kind of went through that together.
Well, I will tell you,
someone,
one of the wise counsel that I got when I started getting in the chairs and I started at junior steward in my lodge was the higher you get on Masonry, the darker it gets, because you start hearing everything.
Yeah.
And that's fact.
That's a fact.
That is a fact. Because you got,
well, I'd love to.
You don't know yet. Chris, you're a past master of a lodge. Yes. So, you know, when you start getting up there, as a master, you're dealing with different things that you would never thought you would have to deal with as a brother. And Matt, you sort of got thrown into the fire.
Look, I told Chris with all the stuff I've experienced in Masonry, it's like I'm trying to speed run Masonry. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, look, I'm running for Grandmaster next year. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that.
No. You got to knock that West out in your life.
Wait a second. What's this?
There.
That's it, Rick. I'm coming for you.
Bring it on,
really
baby.
Want to. You're
like
gonna
I
run
said before.
Okay.
You know, like I said before, our digest allows any brother to run for any position. And hey, you know what? If they think they can do a better job, go for it. But let me tell you,
that actually brings up a question. So, running for Grand Line, do you have to be a past master to run for Grand Line, or is it just a good thing to be a past master?
It's required, I believe.
That one's required, because I noticed pretty much everyone who's ran for Grand Line that I've witnessed, except for one person, has been at least a right worshipful. And I know in order to be a DDGM, you have to be a past master.
Right.
Correct. For a DDGM.
Well, that being said, that's all behind us now. And we're looking forward to a new day. It's a new year in Freemasonry. We have a new age upon us. Our country is in turmoil, but our district, our jurisdiction of Florida, does not appear to be in turmoil. So I'm really proud to be part of an organization that is not eating itself alive as the rest of the world appears to be. And so with that, I've always wanted to know more about you. And if you're okay with it, I'd love to find out a little bit about where you come from and what made you as a man, and what makes you tick. You ready for that?
Go for it.
I mean, seriously, let's start with
that was the most hesitant agreement I think I've ever seen in my life. It was one of those
Tell us first of all about your family. Like, where do you come from? Do you have a big family? Did you have a lot of brothers and sisters growing up? What was family life like for you? as a kid into young adulthood?
Well, don't hold this against me, but I was born in New Jersey, but I moved down here at a very young age, so I consider myself a Floridian. Yeah, I see Matt shaking his head. But I have two sisters, a stepsister, and a stepbrother. They all live in Florida now. Unfortunately, I lost my parents. I lost my dad in 2014 and my mom in 2020. Dad was a difficult life. He was my best friend. We relied on each other a lot. And I will tell you, if it wasn't for this fraternity and 3 brothers in my lodge, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys today.
Oh, I believe it. It's my mother passed weeks before I was installed as the master of my lodge, like 2 weeks, I think, before it. And then we lost Rusty Glendenning like days after my mom
Yeah.
and my dad was already passed. So I know what you're talking about. And Matt is younger than us, so he's not there yet. But when it happens, you feel kind of untethered to the world without your parents alive, right? Did you
Just
go through
true.
that feeling of like, what the heck is my place in this world now? You don't have someone to call to brag about something you did to tell you good job anymore. That you always had your whole life.
Yep. Absolutely. It's definitely life changing and I've learned a lot since and still learning every day how to deal with it. They say time makes it easier, but I don't think time makes it easier.
No,
You just learn how to deal
I
with
think
it.
you just learn how to. Yeah, you realize other people don't really care about that pain, so you kind of learn how to put it away.
Honestly, that was probably the biggest shock to me because my dad passed away in 2009. He was 47 years old.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
so
young.
here's the thing, like I'm about to be 40 next month. So, and like that kind of messes with your mind a little bit. Like it's one thing and it's all sad and tragic. So I'm not trying to say otherwise, but like it's one thing if you lose your parents whenever you're 60, or you're 50 or something along those lines, right?
Like the natural progression.
Right. So like they're older up in age, right? And it's more so expected at that time. But losing your dad when he's 47 and I was 20 or 21 at the time, something like that. It was just one of those kind of things where it's like, wow. Like, so and even looking at it now, again, I'm about to be 40. I'm only 7 years away from essentially beating my dad's high score of how many years I've been on this planet. So it's kind of a weird thing to look at. And now I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and I've got to contend with that. Of man, if my life mirrors my dad's, then I don't have that much time left, right?
Yes.
Which was kind of like the whole process of the room of reflection. What I took out of that was you have a finite amount of time on this earth. What are you doing with it while you have it?
I think this is a core bit of Freemasonry's teachings, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I mean, that whole third degree that we go through is remembering that exact lesson, I think. And some of the best symbols got removed, like the coffin and the skull and bones. These are things that are supposed to remind us of that lesson. Like, hey, you don't have time to be a jerk or an alcoholic. Like, you've got to get stuff done because that coffin's coming for you. But I guess that was scary to outside people. So in Florida, we had to remove it from our ritual work. But I think it's a really important lesson in Freemasonry.
So, Rick, I mean, you talked about how Masonry helped you through that hard time, which is great that you had that there, that you had those brothers to lean on. But what made you join Masonry to begin with?
Well, that's kind of a funny story. I was a firefighter. I'm a retired firefighter now. And we had an open house. And it so happened to be one of my roommates was a paramedic at the ambulance company, and he was assigned to be there representing the ambulance company in our county. And he was a DMLA, and they were doing the child ID program at the fire station. And it was a lodge that I joined. And so happened to be the brother that was there was a firefighter from Hillsborough County. So they said, hey, you ever thought about joining Freemasonry? And of course, the question was, what's that? And he told me about it, and I'm like, sure. So actually, all 4 of us from the house, we all joined, and that was back 15, 16 years ago. I can thank
Are
my
they still
roommate for
involved?
it. One moved to California, and the other one, he's sort of involved. He's an executive with the ambulance company now, so he doesn't have too much time. And yeah. Not to mention 2013 was a bad year because my dad passed away in 2014. But 2013, one of my roommates who was a Mason, he or was in the process of becoming a Mason, should I say. We made him an honorary friend of the lodge. He was a paramedic. He was on his way home from training, and a van pulled out in front of his motorcycle, and tragically, he succumbed to his injuries.
young man.
Yes, very young, in his early 30s.
Oh boy. So you're now in the fraternity for, I think you said 15 years ish,
15th.
somewhere around there. And you're retired. You're no longer a fireman, right?
Correct. No longer a firefighter. When my dad passed away, like I said, 2013 was a real rough year. One of my best friends on May 29th passed away from a brain aneurysm. He worked for the ambulance company. And then 9 days later, my roommate was killed in the motorcycle accident. And then subsequently, 6 months later, my dad passed. So it was like bam, bam, bam.
Golly.
Yeah. And being in the
man.
fire service,
Talk about,
there's things that I wish I could unsee.
I can only imagine.
So,
That's I mean, people that are firemen are looked at as heroes, and you also get pretty cool calendars if you have abs. What
Yeah,
else goes
it's never
on
the
as a
calendar.
fireman? Like, because I honestly, I only know what I see from the movies, and it looks like firefighters are super close knit group of people because you spend a lot of time waiting together, right?
Yeah,
And you got to like
they're our
entertain
second
yourself.
family. They're our second family. I mean, we're on 20. The shift I was on 24 hours off 48 hours. So every third day, I'm spending with these guys, and our lives depend on each other. So they're our second family.
So you were ready for Freemasonry. You already knew how to handle that brotherhood, living with different kind of men, working together.
Yeah. Yeah, but
That's kind of good lessons.
living with two other guys in the firehouse, we get to know each other, get to know each other's personalities. Freemasonry, we got 26,000 different personalities. So it's a little different, but
I will tell you though, Chris, you just gave me a fantastic idea of let's get one of those like firehouse or fireman calendars and just Photoshop all the Grand Line heads on the different bodies, and we'll just start
please
selling
don't.
that.
No, please don't.
It'd be hilarious.
There's an audience out there for everything, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI.
Sure, you'll find your niche if you do that.
Yep. We're going to AI create this right now. Going to hop on GPT. Let's do it.
Might not like your new fan base once we're done with that.
Oh, good Lord.
So, what about you as a man? We kind of all know about your history once you got into the Grand Line, but like, what do you personally do to unwind and for hobbies? Because this is a stressful gig.
Anybody that's friends with me on Facebook knows that I enjoy my cigars and bourbon, sitting on the back porch, hanging out with friends, relaxing, unwinding, de-stressing.
Yeah.
Fishing every once in a
Getting
while.
recentered and re-energized.
Yes.
Oh, you're a fisher?
Yeah, I like to fish every once in a while.
Okay. What about hunting?
Hunting down here in Florida is not too good.
It's really not.
No.
I can vouch. It's accurate.
Well, randomly for you, I watch a lot of Colbert, and one of his favorite things to do is the Colbert Report, where he asks these questions, get to know people better. And one of the questions is, what is the best sandwich?
Best sandwich I'm going to have to say is the Philly cheesesteak.
I mean, he's from Jersey, right? So it makes sense now that you would say that.
Cuban sandwich represent.
They're good too.
I honestly have to say the Cuban sandwich too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Which even
So
still,
you guys don't live in Dunedin where Delco's is. Delco's got the best Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because you're not too far from Tampa, so like Old Tampa Cubans.
Oh, yeah.
Over that way. Same thing with
yeah.
Bricados.
Oh, my goodness.
That's another one.
Yeah, Bricados on 50. Oh, my goodness. They got the best Cuban sandwiches in Florida.
And their devil crab. Oh, so good.
Exactly.
Devil's crab.
See, that was a trick question. Thanks, Chris.
Well,
see, and here's the funny thing, since we're on Bricados, right? Here's the funny thing. My dad used to eat Bricados all the time. And in that time frame that he was eating it, the health department went in there and shut it down like 2 or 3 different times for health code violations. So I'm like, Dad, why are you eating that nasty place? Because over here in Plant City, we got something called Strawberry Hut. And Strawberry Hut's got a phenomenal Cuban, but even still, like Bricados, super good, but it's super dirty.
Strawberry Hut. Never heard of that.
But yeah, next time you're in town, we'll go grab one.
Definitely go to the Strawberry.
Now,
Yeah,
Rick,
right.
I was goofing around on AI the other day, and I asked it to look you up in preparation for this interview. I was like, I wonder what AI has on Rick Wendling. And so it said that you're, very involved with the children's programs. It actually spoke very highly of you, which is a good thing. But it said that you run a private investigation company.
I do. I took my dad's business over that when he passed away. I took that over when I retired. So he started it.
Yeah, you truly are a dick.
See, the rumor's true.
Confirmed right here. He is a dick.
That's right. You heard it.
Dick Wendling. I don't even know what that means. How does that become associated with private investigators? Dick Tracy?
Yeah, I think
You
so.
know?
Sounds good.
Maybe that's where it comes from.
Oh, no, Matt.
That's crazy. So are you actively investigator today?
I do currently hold a license. I let everybody else do the investigations. I own the agency.
Okay.
Being a Grand Lodge officer, I don't get
That's
out in the field that
fascinating.
much anymore. But yeah, we don't do the cheat spouses or anything like that. Never have, never will.
That's the
Or
fun stuff.
workman's comp stuff.
That was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah, what kind of stuff does a private investigator do? Like
Well, we
serving
do
court papers? No, that's
we also serve process, which is serving the subpoenas and summonses. We do blue
yeah.
collar crimes. We do security enhancements. We do executive protection. So all that's good stuff. Yeah.
Like I'm curious, what is a pet peeve of yours as a man, not in Freemasonry necessarily, but
But I also want to know the Freemasonry one too.
just in
Well-
everyday life personally? Like what's your something you just irks you or you can't deal with it makes you walk the other way?
People that lie. I have a hard time with people
Liars.
lying or being fake. I think everybody that knows me
Oh man.
knows I'm pretty upfront, honest, and I can't deal with the people that lie and are fake, friends to your face, and as soon as you turn around, they're ready to stab you in the back.
Right.
That's my pet peeve. But other than
Did
that,
that answer your question, Matt?
Oh, no, I want to know in Masonry, what's your biggest pet peeve in Masonry? Like whether it be ritual, degree work, like what is it for you?
that
Oh,
to
that.
be honest, the bickering amongst our brothers.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Ritual work, there's nobody perfect. There's only one man perfect, and he got crucified for it. So I know even if so elected as Grand Master, I'm not looking for perfect ritual work. I'm not a ritualist. Do I know the work? Yes. Do I hold a current blue card? Yes. But the bickering between brothers, I mean, we all took the same obligation and
Yeah.
keep our passions within due bounds. If you have a problem with the brother, let's go to the brother and talk to him about it. In fact, I will tell you that I've recently done that with two brothers so far to date, and I'm going to be having a meeting with a third brother that people like to play against each other. And when you actually meet face to face, it's like, I never said that. You didn't? That's what I heard. Well, you should have came to me, So, and I think if we all did
you
that,
bring up a good point because you bring up a good point because even if you just use the simple, just two of the Masonic tools, the compasses and the trowel, you use those two and you're not going to have any of this petty bickering at all.
amen.
Always found fascinating about Freemasonry since I joined is you sit in the lodge and everyone's on their best behavior. They're actually practicing all the teachings, right? Like even if it gets heated, it never gets well. And only in the most extreme cases do you see it get vulgar and like aggressive. Almost everybody keeps control inside the lodge room. And I've been preaching ever since we have this podcast that lodge room is like training wheels on a bike, and you need to take them off and go out in the real world and act that way. It's not just meant to be a Mason 2 nights a month. You're supposed to be a Mason every day.
It's funny, Chris, that you say that. So my wife has started to pick up on some of the things that I'll say. Like if we're driving and people driving stupid, or we're at Publix and people are acting like people in Publix do. Anytime we have something like that where people are really getting on my nerves, I'll just take a breath and I say, I'm keeping my passions within due bounds, right? So she started to say that, right? Whenever people are acting stupid in the grocery store, she'll just look at me, she'll like grab the buggy and just be like, I'm keeping my passions within due bounds.
There you go. Spreading the love.
Yep.
Well, also, like, I'm a very inquisitive person. So I would always go to every DDGM in my district at the end of the year and ask them if there was anything that surprised them about that job. And every single one said the same thing you just said. They were surprised at the amount of bickering and the amount of trouble that they saw during their year. So that must be a big problem.
Yeah,
And,
unfortunately, it is. How we get it to change, I don't know. We're working on it.
And that's the thing. I kind of wonder if it's a generational thing. I mean, because over in District 21 in my district, what I'm seeing with a lot of these, Gen X and millennial worshipful masters that we have is all of us are working together incredibly well. I mean, remarkably well. Like there's no tension. There's no, well, we tried that 20 years ago. Like there's none of that. Like it is quite literally like the worshipful master at my lodge just did a oil-based or acrylic-based painting of a sheaf of wheat suspended near a waterfall, and just gave it to Travelers Lodge. Because they didn't have one. So it was just like really cool. And they're all wanting to get together for game nights. They're wanting to get together for family events. And it's like, there's really a generational divide in Masonry with some of the older brothers versus some of the younger brothers. Have you seen any of that or no?
Oh, absolutely. Because, it's the way we always done it,
Right.
and I know next is going to make it. I'm going to come against some opposition. I'd love to tell you some more about what I have in store, but I don't want to step on our current grandmaster's toes. But he knows what I'm going to be doing, and he loves the ideas. And I will tell you, him and I have been working well together. We're unified since I've gotten elected, and he asked for my input on things that I haven't seen since I've been elected. So it's refreshing.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. It sounds like things are very different in a positive way. And I think that can really help solve the underlying issue you talked about. When everyone at the top is having fun and following the rules, everyone else will emulate that behavior, you would think. You see it in the lodges you've fired up, Matt. Like when the master and the immediate line are all working together, having fun and getting things done, the whole lodge is on board, and they start to kind of move in that direction. So I'm sure that exists at the district level and even up to the gold collar level. I remember one of the first Grandmaster's visits I went to, that Grandmaster had a meeting after dinner in a tiled lodge, and everybody looked like they're having a blast. They were joking with each other. Everybody was smiling, laughing. And I thought, wow, this is such a great fraternity. Like to see the guys at the top doing the right things and being cool and having fun with what they're doing kind of made it okay for us too.
Well, I think there was a quote in the movie Remember the Titans where one of the guys, looked at the captain, the I think it was the linebacker, looked at the captain. He's like, Julius, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And he goes, attitude reflects leadership, captain. I was just like, ooh, I love that.
And like you said,
What got you interested in moving beyond your lodge and getting involved at the district level?
well, to be honest, even before I was initiated as an EA, Sutherland was in downtown Palm Harbor, and they had Palm Harbor Days where they closed down the street in front, and we sold hot dogs for a fundraiser. So I was out there serving hot dogs, and the fraternity and the brotherhood was there. Going forward, I started seeing a change in the fraternity where it was lodges pitting against lodges, brothers pitting against brothers, and it wasn't the same fraternity. And I learned in the fire department the only way to make change is to join the ranks. So I started inquiring. This is back when Most Worshipful Hoover was running for the Grand South. And he asked me the same thing, what's your aspirations? And back then it was like, become Worshipful Master. And he goes, what after that? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe become a district deputy, but I don't know. I see a lot of work. And, he told me what it took to do that. And he took me under his wing, guided me along the way. And, I just felt that even though year as I was DD, things weren't just right. And it can't be a good old boy system anymore. And I decided to throw my hat in the ring for Junior Grand Warden. I think you heard my speech.
Awesome. So would you say Rick Hoover? It's like, I definitely heard your speech. I heard you speaking before you got elected as well. And I liked everything you had to say. Would you say that Rick Hoover was your mentor?
He was one of them.
Freemasonry?
He gave me the tools and the ideas to do what I needed to do to get where I'm at today. And obviously, there's other past grandmasters, Most Worshipful Lambert, Most Worshipful Bishop, and Hudson that in fact, I can remember when it was my time to be installed as Worshipful Master of the Lodge. I asked Most Worshipful Hoover, he was a deputy grandmaster at the time, if he'd be my installing officer. And Most Worshipful Hudson tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, what am I, chopped liver? So I'm like, what do I do now? He's the Grand Master. So I'm like, Most Worshipful, you're more than welcome to do it. And then Hoover tapped me on the shoulder and he said, what am I, chopped liver? And I'm like, I'm not going to win this fight, am I? But yeah, so it ended up being Most Worshipful Hudson installed me, and Most Worshipful Hoover was the marshal. So it was a pretty great feeling to have the two top people come and install me.
You mentioned Lambert, and that was a man that I've watched, and I thought, wow, that's like a great example of silent power. Like he wasn't one to constantly be at the forefront, but I feel like his influence was felt. And in my mind, I was like, I would love to get to that place too. I'd love to be someone that can quietly lead without having to crack a whip or
I will tell
talk
you
about myself every 2
the most humble person going through when he started running, getting elected, and going through the line all the way up to Grandmaster. He never forgot his roots. My plan is to stay just like that. I've told a couple people, if you ever see me get out of line, come up and slap me in the back of the head.
So you actually just brought up a point and a question that I'm actually curious about. So I know a couple people that are being tapped for DDGMs over the next like 3 years. So what was, in going from a worshipful master and a past master to then a district deputy grand master, what's that workload look like? What does it look like whenever you finally get up to that level or to that point? I mean, is it just a whole bunch of paperwork? Is it more responsibility? I mean, for someone who's never been a district deputy, what's that
being
look
a
like?
district deputy grand master, you're the representative of the grand master in the district when he's not there. You're not the grand master. You don't have power of the grand master, which sometimes people forget. But it also it really depends on the grand master and what he wants done. I've seen grandmasters say you need 2 official visits and 2 unofficial visits, up to 4 official visits and 4 unofficial visits. Yeah, and I've seen
That's got to be painful for a guy like Tom
and
Simpson's
it's
got
2
like
hours
15
from north to
lodges in his
south.
district.
Yeah, and yeah, Thomas Simpson,
Yes.
he's in my district over in 21.
Is that going to hop to jump from one to the other? So
Worshipful Simpson
that's
was
a beast of an order.
and had to do 4 visits. But it depends on the grand master and what he's looking to do his year and what he wants the district deputies to do. They all come up with their requirements of what they want their district deputy to be, or what credentials for them to have. Obviously, like we've already discussed, they have to be a past master. Some wanted them to have blue cards. Some wanted them to have, obviously now with the new legislation that just passed, we all have to have our Master Mason 1, 2, 3 and MLT. But, some want them to have their LOTC. So different requirements for each grandmaster, because there's nothing clearly written in the digest besides being the past master.
So it's actually funny that you guys brought up. It's funny that you guys brought up Tom Simpson. So I'm actually in his district, and he and we've worked a ridiculous amount of degrees together. I see him frequently, if not talk to him every week. So in our district, it's a tri-county area, and there's 13 lodges in it. And as the bird flies, it's over 100 miles from the furthest north lodge that we have to the furthest south. So for some of these lodges, because we're in the month of June, and I'm a committeeman this year, so we have packed our month of June. And so it's like we've got 3 to 4 lodge visits a week. And I think now after Monday, it's going to start slowing down a little bit. But my gosh, the traveling, I mean, you got to drive an hour and a half to some of these lodges. It's
the grandmaster gets to choose when all your visits got to be done by. And he's, a lot of our lodges go dark July and August throughout the jurisdiction because of the summer and the northerners and stuff like that. So, you got to take that into consideration, which I am. So,
which I will say it was kind of cool. So we got our directive through our DDGM, right? Worshipful Jeremy Leslie. He is a phenomenal guy. But the directive that we got this year is basically to bring positivity, to bring unity, to bring, I think what I was told is, hey, we're going to have fun with this. So I was like, okay, great. So as I'm doing my whole pitch for public relations for the committee work, I'm like, hey, this is my merry band of mariachi brothers, so we're all cracking jokes. I showed Chris right before we went live. I showed Chris our chat thread, some of the stuff we have in that chat thread for that committee group that we have. Man, you want to talk about a phenomenal group. We are having
Don't stand
fun.
In the front row of a picture with those guys. That's
do not stand in the front row, because Worshipful Buddy he's got AI warping of photos on lock. He does a really good job. I'll send you some of them offline because they are not appropriate for here.
No. I mean, it is safe for work. It's just not safe for freebies.
No, but doggone it, it's so funny.
So what was it like the first time you ran for Grand Lodge? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Goodness.
Well, you've run multiple times for different Grand Lodge
okay.
positions.
Technically,
I'm talking
yes.
about like the very first time.
So when I ran for junior grand warden, it was fun. I really enjoyed traveling around the state, going to different lodges. That year I was honored to be the grand sword bearer. So I had a gold collar to wear, and it was amazing to see how many lodges that I went into that freaked out because it was a gold collar. And they're like, we never had a gold collar. What do we do? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just a brother. I said, relax. It was fun running across the state, giving my message, getting the positive feedback. It was just an amazing feeling to feel the brothers' love and support throughout the state.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, there's definitely a perception out there that you can't run for Grand Lodge unless someone sponsors you that is in the Grand Lodge.
No.
There's no truth to
No.
that, right?
Yes.
Like you said
In
earlier,
fact, we
anybody
have
can run.
5 candidates this year running for junior grand warden.
There's 5 now. Wow.
I know of at least 2 of them, possibly 3, because one of them is from my district, so he's
Yep.
already started to announce to the district that he's running. And I got to tell you, it's the Grand South this year is going to be hard because all of the ones that I know of are really good brothers. I mean, just any of them will be a good fit.
This is where we want to be. We want to be in a position where you have a lot of good options.
Yeah, honestly, it's like polar opposite from voting for president,
Right.
where you're just picking the lesser of 2
Yeah,
evils.
exactly. You're
Now you've got
hoping
all
of,
these great candidates. You're like, dadgummit, I can't
Well,
figure out which one I
even
want.
last year we had 3 good candidates and 3 good brothers that ran. And that's the best thing that I love about this fraternity is the craft gets to select who they want. And I love that.
Yeah, me too. I bet what was really awesome for me was to see the craft wake up to the fact that they run this jurisdiction. I think they forgot that. Like you said, they're like, the gold collar, what are you doing here? Oh my God, what do we do? In reality, they shouldn't be at all scared. They should just be like, hey, brother, welcome you in, give you a great night, and you leave happy. But there is that like sense of hierarchy and position, I think, with the titles and the colors that if you don't get out of your lodge, you just don't realize they're just brothers
Well,
too that have been through the ringer.
And you know what? I gotta say, like, even the messaging changed this year from the Grand Lodge and Grand Line, of the messaging being that the Grand Lodge works for the craft. I mean, I think I heard that at least once or twice while we were at Grand Lodge. So, and that was something, I mean, in my short time in Masonry was totally foreign to me. So, especially
Right.
like after Grand Lodge last year, not this most recent one, but the year before, I've said it here on the podcast that Most Worshipful Tally called me about Turkey Creek. And he's like, Matt, I want to help. And my first immediate thought was the Grand Lodge, the Grand Line wants to help with something. You know, it totally blew my mind, you know. So again, in the short time I've been here, so seeing that positive messaging coming out of the Grand Line and out of Grand Lodge has been very welcomed across the state from everybody I've talked to.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I've said it
Everybody
many
just
times, even when I was running, if there's no blue lodges, there's no Grand Lodge. We work for the craft, and that's what we should be here for. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the craft. We need to be unified, and it's not us versus them anymore. We need to work together. We need to give the tools for every lodge to be successful. And that's what I said. We got to get back to the basics. And I am so happy and proud that the craft unanimously voted to approve the mentoring program that's coming out. It's long overdue, and it's going to be one of the tools and resources that are going to help the lodges be very successful and get the engagement back with the brothers.
so for the people listening that aren't aware of what you're talking about, can you give us a 10,000-foot view of what
Well,
that
Dr.
includes?
Joshua Schutz from Pensacola completely revamped our mentoring program. It was nestled in with Masonic education, and our digest says it's required by every lodge. But unfortunately, it wasn't being done. I never got the mentoring when I went through the 3 degrees, and there was
Yeah.
no engagement. You had to really work to get involved. And he presented this a couple of years ago, and it didn't go anywhere. It got shot down at the Grand Lodge level, corporate board level. And when I talked to him about running, I heard about it and I read it and I loved it. And I said, can I use it and bring it forward to again and get to the craft? And we worked together, and it's a 7-step method to engage the craft from when they applied to join a lodge through each degree and beyond becoming a master mason, how to get them involved in the district and the jurisdiction. And it's going to be phenomenal.
Now,
Wow, that's
if I'm not
exciting.
mistaken, that new mentoring or mentors manual is the GL 217. Because I heard Right Honorable Tim Ellis talk about it this morning. We had a committee visit this morning, but is that new document out
We
already, or
just
is it
approved
still
it
yet
at
to come
corporate
out?
board today. We had our first corporate board meeting today, and it's going to be the
Nice.
first time that it was translated into Spanish. So are Spanish brothers. Yes. So
Oh,
there was a
nice.
couple errors that were in the Spanish book that they're correcting, and as soon as they're corrected, they're both going to come out.
Very cool. Very cool. So my understanding is the old GL 217 was like 25-ish pages, somewhere around there. And this new GL
Correct.
217 is over 60 pages, correct?
Yes.
Nice.
Problem as I saw it coming up through the ranks, what I saw was people were very ready to get involved when it came to teaching the degree work, right? And going through the books with the candidates because they get to stand up in front of the craft and people applaud and they say, "Good job, brother, for training those guys." But seriously, the mentors don't get that. They never get pulled up. They're never in front. No one's ever thanking them. And it's not going on their Masonic, sheet that they're doing this work. So I could see why people weren't like dying to do that kind of a work. It was very in the background of the lodge. And only the best brothers would be the ones that would take the time to do it because they aren't getting any credit for it. I think that like we always thought if you could put it on the Masonic record that they were a mentor in the lodge or so, just give them some recognition, it'd be a little easier to recruit for that. But maybe a brand new
And
system
that
will
it will.
solve that.
That it's
issue.
going. You're going to see.
Yeah.
You're going to see good things this year and good things next year. I can promise you that.
And I have to correct something I said just a second ago, brothers. The current GL 217 is actually 35 pages, and it's from 2008. And so the new one is going to be almost double that. So it's going to be a much more in-depth mentor manual from what I understand. It's going to have all kinds of new information in there in order how to instruct some of these younger brothers or
You guys
newly
froze up
made
on me.
brothers, I should say, to kind of get them a little bit more proficient as to where they should be. So when that comes out, I am absolutely going to download it, print it out, put it in my little binder and have it there. I'm not a mentor at my lodge, but I do believe everybody should at least take a look at this. And that way you can help some of these newer Master Masons kind of get in the groove and the swing of things.
And it is required, like he said, that we do it. So somebody's got to do it.
But
So you've been, what I was asking you was, you've been in the Grand Lodge now, I think 4 years, right?
3 is going on my
3
third year
years.
now. Yep.
This is your 3rd year. Okay.
Yep.
Is Masonry different for you now than it was before you got into the Grand Lodge? And if so,
It is as Deputy Grand Master for the first 2 years, as Junior and Senior Grand Warden. As Junior Grand Warden, you're learning the basics of Grand Lodge and how Grand Lodge works. And then you're starting to try to figure out, because there's no training manual. There's nothing in there that says, hey, this is what you got to do. Most Worshipful Vest and I put a list together for the new guys coming in behind us to, hey, this is what you need to do, at this time. Senior Grand Warden, a whole nother level, because now you got to do the budget. And
it's a serious budget for you guys.
oh, yes, it is. That was very time consuming, lots of time on the phone, lots of time in person with people. I think we did a fantastic job on the budget this year. I was kind of shocked that I didn't get asked any questions at Grand Lodge. I'm happy that I wasn't, and the craft approved the budget. And as Deputy Grand Master, you now get to know, I'm going to say 95% of everything the Grand Master does, because God forbid anything happens to the Grand Master, the Deputy Grand Master steps in and runs the fraternity until his year as Grand Master. So, as I said earlier, the higher you get, the darker it gets sometimes. And we're trying to get rid of that darkness so it'll always be light. So
that actually brings up I'm glad you said that about being Deputy Grand Master versus Senior Grand Warden. So you had told me on the phone at one point that you now have access to different types of meetings and conversations that you did not have access to before. So that was going to be my question to you. Are you in Most Worshipful Haskell like attached at the hip? Like you're involved in everything Masonically that he's doing? You're a part of all the meetings, part of all the conversations? I mean, is that basically how it goes?
I want to say attached to the hip. Like I said, about 95% of the stuff, because there's stuff that he deals with that he'll handle. But we work very well together. He has reached out to me on plenty of things, and I get to know things that he's going to do before everybody else does. But that's just the way it works. Because again, God forbid anything happens to him, I got to pick up the ball and continue to run with it. So again, there's things that he will deal with, and when the time's appropriate, he'll let me know.
So that brings up another question. At least on the particular lodge level, or at least at my lodge, we have 2 different message threads. We have one that's all the officer line, all the way down to the junior steward. And then we have one that is just for the 3 primary chairs. Is there a text message thread of the Grand Line officers, and how funny is that text message thread?
Well, sometimes there's a text message thread when we're talking about serious business of where we're going to do lunch.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So Don't have any signal chats going around where you accidentally invite journalists like us to that chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't discuss business on via text messages. It's usually via emails coming down from the Grand Master, and we're copied on that stuff. But overall, I think the current Grand Lodge line works well together. We welcomed Right Worshipful Dragniff with open arms as junior Grand Warden and teaching him the ropes of being an elected Grand Lodge officer now. And I think we got a great line, and I'm looking forward to seeing who gets elected at this upcoming Grand Lodge and bring them into the Grand Lodge line and welcome them with open arms, no matter who it is.
So speaking of, as the grand line progresses, as that progressive grand line that we have, what's kind of your, I know you can't get into the specifics here at this point, but your year as Grandmaster, what's some of the stuff that you're trying to achieve, that you're trying to implement, what are some goals that you have, around the craft? And it could be everything from procedurally to just the vibe of the craft. So what's your year going to look like?
Well, one of the things, like I said, and I'll say, since I ran, when I was running, the average cost of our Grandmaster's official visits was $8,000 per district. That's just way too much for a one night. And as I prefer to call it, a one night stand, because I'm coming in for one night, you're spending $8,000, and that money can be used for our lodges. Money could be used for our charities. So one of the things I'm doing is, Worshipful Burns, you were there. During most Worshipful Lambert's year, you guys got hit by Hurricane Ian, and it put a hurt on our fraternity, and especially districts 23 and 24.
Yeah.
So it put off the GMOV in District 23, and they did a town hall event at
That was
Manatee Lodge.
Such a better experience than,
Yes.
I mean, wow, just to feel like you're with brothers, like at least we ate in the lodge room, we met in the lodge room of that lodge, and it was very casual. It was still a formal reception, yes,
So,
but it wasn't like what you're talking about, where we've got first, second, fourth.
We're the Grand Lodge line's dressed up in tuxedos, the DDs, and everybody's dressed up, and you got to everybody else is wearing a suit. It's kind of hard for some people to get off work on a Friday night, rush home, take a shower, jump into a suit, and go to a GMOV. Well, the Grand Master's official visit is supposed to be for the Grand Master to visit the brothers of that district, to find out what Grand Lodge can do for that district and help that district out and those lodges of that district out. So I'm going back to the old school and going off of the town hall premise, where all we're going to do is have hors d'oeuvres, and we're going to be dressed as Masonic casual. There's no suits, no tuxes. I'll be in a grand.
I think the brothers like that.
Yes.
I heard it.
And you know what? If they're in jeans and a polo shirt, I don't care. I want butts in the chair. I want the brothers in the chairs. And I want to know what we can do for them to make them more successful.
That's awesome.
And keep the costs down. Yep.
I mean, we could really make this a lot of fun, because Kathleen has some sort of a degree or a night or something like that where they show up in overalls. So, I mean, hey, we could do a town hall in overalls.
Hey, we can. I'm okay with it. Hey, when I go to represent Grand Lodge at D. Malay Conclaves, they have themes. They have neon night themes. I wore a neon shirt and neon glasses. This past year, they had a character theme, and I went as Robin Hood. So imagine that. Huh?
Which one? Are you talking like a Russell Crowe, or are you talking like Robin Hood Men in Tights?
The only real Robin Hood was Kevin Costner's the OG Robin Hood.
Dude, we watched that movie so much growing up, because my mom was obsessed with that movie. I'm over that and Waterworld. Like those two, never again.
Yes.
One of the best bad movies ever made.
It was horrible. It was so bad.
But one of the things that Masonry's taught me is we're all supposed to be on the level. And that's the kind of Grandmaster I'm going to be, is on the level. I'm not caught up on titles. Call me Rick. Call me brother. I'm not going to correct you. Just don't call me Rick
for not using your full title.
No, sorry.
That's good. Things have changed. All right.
I will say that is something that has been interesting to see in the craft, because again, I've only been here less than 3 years, right? But is that some brothers consider themselves more on the level than the rest of them, and like they're few and far between, but they are funny to watch.
The ones that think they're above.
Yes, the ones that'll correct you. Actually, it's worshipful. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay, calm down.
Yeah, some people are wrapped around the titles.
Yes, very much so. It's a double-edged sword, because the titles motivate people to try and get those titles. But at the same time, the idea of titles on a fraternity who tells everybody we're all on the level is kind of hypocrisy a little bit.
There are other jurisdictions that you're only most worshipful when you're in that current position. Then you go back to right worshipful. So,
Well, that actually comes to a question I wanted to ask you. I imagine right now you're very amped and ready for your year as Grandmaster, as we need you to be. I'm wondering how much of your time is spent thinking about after your year as Grandmaster.
I always want to be involved into this fraternity, even after I'm done. I want to continue moving forward and be positive, no matter who the Grandmaster is. Obviously, we'll always have to respect the chair. Like I said in my Junior Grand
Yes.
Warden homecoming, we have to respect the position. And whether you respect the person in that chair or not, you have to respect the position. And
Agreed.
and respect's earned. It's not given. It's earned.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the perception the small percentage have, is that once you have the title, you have the respect, even if you haven't earned it, and that you don't have to do anything to earn that respect. But that just means that we need more Masonic education early on.
Yes. Well, and one of the wise counsel that I got is if you ever become a district deputy grand master, you're a district deputy grand master for 1 year. After that 1 year, you're a brother again, and you got to sit with your brothers in that lodge. So treat everybody like you want to be treated, and that's what I try to do.
Well, and you got to keep in mind, and I actually learned this from, watching some of the teachers that I had growing up, is like in school, you had teachers that were like really cool and you had teachers that really kind of sucked, right? And they were like mean for no reason. And
Dealing with kids like you all day.
but you're not wrong. I was a menace in high school, but you got to think about it. Like eventually you're going to be out of that position of authority. And
Right.
so one of the teachers that I had, I was in my mid 20s. I saw him at an auto parts store and I looked right at him. He was horrible to me in high school. And I told him, like, you mentioned one word to me, I'm laying you out here and now. Like I
Oh,
hated
wow.
the guy. He hated me. Anybody who's in a leadership position has to understand that leadership position only exists for a short amount of time. And those people remember how you treated them while you were in that leadership position. So I'm glad to hear you say that you're dedicated on being a brother. You want to go back to being just a normal brother in the craft. That is a great thing, because again, how you treat people throughout your year, and this is true for anybody, how you treat people while you were in power, once you get out of that position of authority, they're going to bring it back to you. You're going to get it tenfold.
Well, even when I go visit lodges since I've been elected, and they're like, "Ooh, the junior grand warden now, the deputy grandmaster's here. What do we do? Do you want honors? Do you want to sit in the east?" No, I'm just here to sit amongst the brothers. I'm just here to support the lodge. That's it. I don't need any special treatment. Even next year, if so elected, and I go to visit a lodge, I'm there just to visit. In fact, I'll give you a funny story. Most Worshipful Vest told me he has 3 hats. Matt, were you at his installation?
No, I had to get back to work.
Okay. So his sons got him a beautiful white Stetson. So now he has a white Stetson. He has a gray colored hat, and he's got a black Stetson. So he tells me if he's wearing his white Stetson, he's in a good mood and he's happy. If he's in his gray one, he's on the fence about something. But if he walks in your lodge with the black Stetson on, watch out.
Okay, that's good to know. I wish everyone would wear their emotions in their hat. Make it easier
no
on
doubt.
us.
But I mean, he was just having fun. That's what kind of a grandmaster
There you
we
go.
have right now.
Oh,
do it just like this.
There you go. Hey, is that a Grady Judd hat?
No, so this one's a twister because it's like
Ah.
100 degrees outside, so I'm not going to wear my felt ones.
Yeah, I hear you. But and that's what he's just like him. When we go to a lodge, you don't need the pomp and circumstance. We're there just to support our brothers. And
I was going to ask, it's like, do you not want the pomp and circumstance, or do you not want to watch that lodge butcher grand honors like most of them do? I'm not going to lie, dude. It's rough watching it sometimes.
They still have to receive him in that manner.
But I tell you what, some of them they get in unison after the first clap.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But yeah, no, being a firefighter, I've been involved for a thankless job, and I'm not about titles, and I'm not worried about the pomp and circumstance. Never have been, never will be.
Well, you mentioned some legendary names already that have served in the state of Florida as grandmasters. What is something that you've learned that you want to imitate as you've served other grandmasters in the grand line? I mean, when I was coming up in my line, I'm sure Matt is going through this now. Every year we have a different master. We do things completely differently. So I'd always take mental notes of the things that I have to remember to do that, because it was awesome. And I have a longer list of things never to do because I saw other people do them. Is it the same for you in the Grand Line? Do you make those mental lists of like, oh, I need to emulate that,
Oh, yes.
and then
Absolutely.
don't ever go down that path, like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've learned that real quick.
So what's one thing you could think of that you would want to emulate from something you've seen in some other grandmaster?
As I mentioned it before, be humble.
Humbleness that you saw
Yep.
in life.
Yep.
That's a good one.
And,
I think for someone who's in a position of leadership, you have to actively try to remain humble. It's not easy. It goes against your instincts as a human, I think. So you have to kind of always be watching that. And it's so nice to hear you say that as someone that's in authority, that you want to focus on being humble.
So out of kicks and giggles, because we just covered like a positive trait, that you want to emulate, what are some of an example of something that you've seen that you're like, no, I definitely want to change that moving forward. Like as kids growing up and as parents, you look at how your parents raised you and you say, I like that they did this, but I don't like that they did that. So what's the thing that you've seen that you're like, nope, that one I'm kicking out?
one of the things that I've learned and watching past grands and coming through the line is the one thing I don't want to do is make a knee-jerk reaction. I want to be able to sit there and I'll tell somebody, let me think about it from all sides, what my decision's going to be, whether it's going to affect a few or is it going to affect everybody. We've seen it through multiple past grandmasters, good and bad, that some of the decisions they make were knee-jerk reactions or vindictive. And I'm not going to say any grandmaster was an addictive. Don't get me wrong there. It just I'm not gonna. I don't lead like that. Never have, never will.
So your thing that you want to make sure to get away from is that mentality of ready, fire, aim. Like you want to make sure to do your due diligence and actually do it right.
Absolutely. And even from what our current grandmaster's doing with these ruling decisions and the directives, and we've talked on the phone several hours about it, is our justice system needs to be followed. It needs to be fair and impartial. It's sad that we even have to have one, but unfortunately we do. And the thing we both try to communicate with our craft is let's get it settled on the lowest level possible. Let's go from brother to brother first, and because half the times I was on penal affairs for 3 years. And some of the trials I was on, I'm like, are you kidding me? Why are we going to trial on this?
Did anyone talk to each other before this?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this could have been settled a long ways. But
I'm glad to hear you say that because I've been a part of one trial. I've watched another trial. And then, of course, I've explained on this show multiple times the stuff that I've seen from Turkey Creek to Lakeland Lodge and the issues that we had. The trials are an interesting thing because it's almost like a trial will bring out the worst in Masonry. I mean, we're not really trying to find peace and harmony anymore. Instead, now we're being accusatory. Now we're, getting a little more aggressive or saying things out of line and not acting like a Mason. So I'm glad to hear the directive number 2. I was really glad to see that. I'm glad to hear you say that because trials, brothers, if you've never been in a trial, count your blessings. They suck. They absolutely are terrible.
Well, to be fair, you went through some of the darkest trials that have happened in the state of Florida, or you were, I would like to think they're not normally like that. The ones that we saw, I'm sure to an extent you can't get out of there. If there's a trial, that means people couldn't settle their stuff. So there's probably going to be some of that, but I feel like you and I saw the worst of it.
Yeah, in a way, I almost wish brothers could see a trial, not be involved. But
Right.
I mean, it's inevitable that we're going to see trials throughout the years.
Yeah.
But my idea is everybody sees it and see what goes on. They'll rethink about I'm bringing charges and try to settle it on the level.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, Rick, that is one thing that I've learned again in my short time in Masonry is people throw around charges and trial and they throw that around so much. And half the people that talk about it have never read the digest where it explains all of it. I think it was probably about a year and a half ago. I had a master here locally that threatened me with charges. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're threatening me. And I wasn't even a member of his lodge. And he's like, you're walking on thin ice. I'm going to file charges against you. I'm like, for what? The only thing I did is I brought up a concern. I went to you first, the master. So I followed chapter 44 I went to the Worshipful master first for any irregularities in a lodge. And then I went and talked to the district deputy. I wasn't tattling. I was just saying, hey, this might be something to keep an eye on. So it's, brothers, here's the thing. If you don't know charges and trials and you've not read the digest, please don't throw that out as a threat. I mean, because it's hollow, it falls on deaf ears. It doesn't make you look good as a Mason. Like Right Worshipful Rick is sitting here saying, go meet with each other, sit down face to face, and hammer it out. That's going to be so much better for peace and harmony within the craft.
And that's the end goal, peace and harmony.
Those are the lessons that we are supposed to learn as Masons, is how to deal with people that we don't agree with. That's kind of the beautiful part of going through the chairs in our lodge, is you serve a different role. So you interact with different people in the lodge in different ways. And it gives you so many opportunities to get into arguments with people and deal with it, that I feel like by the time you're the worshipful master, you should be pretty proficient at that. You would think. Like, you've seen every position's issues and challenges, so you should be
but
pretty
one
well.
of the issues too we have in our fraternity with the decline in membership is brothers getting raised to Master Mason, and within a couple of years they're worshipful master.
Yeah, right.
And,
Well,
and
that's
you can't.
desperation right there,
Yes.
because the lodges have gotten themselves into these desperate situations. And when I was the public relations committeeman, I would ask the lodges, what does a Blue Lodge exist for? And they had all kinds of things like ritual, charity, but really you only exist to make new Masons. So if you're not focused on that, you're not focused on the purpose of your lodge. You only
Correct.
exist to make new Masons. That's what you're there for. And if you're taking care of that, then you can turn your attention to charity and other things. But if you're not making new Masons, how can you focus on charity or anything else in your lodge?
Chris, you just brought something up, and I genuinely hope that there's nobody around the state that's doing this anymore. But I had a older Mason. He's probably, how old is he? He's got to be close to 80 years old at this point. This guy's been a Mason for a long time. I think he's since gone NPD, but either way, he was saying that back in my day,
yeah,
what they used to do is they would enforce that if somebody wanted to become a Mason and they asked to become a Mason, they would tell them no, and that they had to ask 3 times in order for them to get a petition to become a Mason. I really hope there's nobody out there still doing it. If you are, please stop. Like, for the love of all things, like we're seeing so many, like our membership. I think I read in the one of the Grand Lodge reports that in 2024, we had 24,000 Masons, and in 25, we had 22,000 Masons. Right. So we're not even replenishing our numbers, guys. So while you do need to protect the West Gate, and you absolutely should protect the West Gate, you got to start getting some of these guys in. You got to start doing a little bit of recruiting. None of this ask 3 times to become a Mason garbage. Like, let's get back to making Masons. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah. It's not the 50s anymore. You can't tell somebody no, they'll never ask again.
Yeah,
exactly.
In fact, we'll go online and talk about how Masons are horrible people. They told me no.
So, Rick, actually, that brings up another question. I mean, we were just talking about some different dichotomies of, things you wanted to emulate, things you wanted to change. So let's ask another dichotomy question of what is the thing in your Masonic career that is like your highlight? You're like, man, if I think of Masonry and positivity, this is the thing that I go to. And what's the thing that you're like, man, I really should have changed that? Like, what are those 2 number 1 slots?
Good question.
It is. The number 1 highlight in my career is, as you researched on AI, I'm very involved in our Masonic youth.
Yes.
And I just started a chapter up in Clearwater, and we already have 7 boys. But I supported Marion Dunn chapter up in Ocala. And for the last several years, I made a donation for them to cover their mini conclave. And just out of goodness of my heart, doing what Masons should do. And during a initiation of the 7 boys at our chapter, their jurisdictional officer, per se, like our DD, came up, gave me a handwritten note thanking me for the support of his chapter and being able for them to do their thing they do in conclave. And for a young man that's not even involved in our fraternity to do that made me speechless. I mean, that shows what D. Malay is doing with them.
Yeah.
I will say any of the D. Malay or Job's Daughters or Rainbow Girls, any event I've been at with any of those organizations, those kids are phenomenal. I mean, they are completely different than the average teenager that's out there. They know how to hold conversations, shake your hand, all that kind of stuff. So, man, if you're part of, or not just you, but if anybody is a part of those organizations and they're acting as a mentor to these young people, good on you. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
We're the only fraternity in the world that has a farm team. These D. Malay boys are interested in Masonry because D. Malay's formed after Masonry, and I mean, what better way to turn around and make these young men when they turn 18 years old to get them into our fraternity? I mean, it's less than 50% that go from DMLA to Masonry, and that's a shame. We need our brothers to step up and go. And in the current GMOBs, I tell everybody, you know, go to one of their meetings, teach them a life skill. In fact, they came to a meeting and taught our Grand Master a life skill, and it was as simple as how to turn the brightness up on his phone. And
Age
it's
versus
fact.
technology strikes again.
Exactly. But they can come and they're technically inclined where some of our older Masons aren't, and they can teach us skills too. But we can go teach them how to change a tire, how to change oil, checking accounts.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. But we need to support our Masonic youth, our like you said, Job's daughters, Rainbow Girls, DMLA. We need to support them all.
So with D Malay, I was going to ask you, we were talking about that at the lodge visit that we had this morning. Is for D Malay, is there any sort of like a funneling system or a recommendation system that whenever these young men are starting to age out of D Malay, that they are sent to the local lodge as a reference, or is that dependent on the lodges to get involved with D Malay?
That I'm going to suggest you guys do a podcast with Right Worshipful Jody McGuire. He's the executive officer of DMLA. He's going to be able to answer that question probably a lot politically correct more than I can.
Okay, fair enough. Good deal. So now we've covered the positive thing, right? So we've covered the thing that you're like, man, that's Masonry to me. Like that's the highlight. What's the bad one? I'm curious.
Again, I covered it before. All the backstabbing, the bickering. We need to be brothers. We need to. If you got a problem with me, guess what? I'm approachable. Come to me. Talk to me. Let's settle our differences. Like I said, just recently with two brothers that are well known throughout the state in several different, not only in the Blue Lodge, but in other appended and allied bodies. We listened to other people coming up to us and saying, hey, Joe said this about you. Joe's going to do this. And they know that there was problems and they're just stirring the pot. We need to stop stirring the pot. We need to get back to the basics. Let's be brothers. You have a problem with me. If I have a problem with you, you're going to know about it because I'm going to come to you. Like our Grandmaster says, if I ask you out to lunch, I'm buying and I'm going to be chewing your ass out. But if you ask me to lunch, you're going to buy and you can chew my ass out. I don't care.
So you actually bring up an interesting point because I've actually had one of those brothers that's more about the gossip. He's constantly doing that. I've had to distance myself from this guy. It's like I don't like that. I mean, I really like kind of where the craft is right now. I like where the jurisdiction is right now. I like the positivity moving forward. And to your point, and brothers, I can actually attest to this. Right Worshipful Rick and I have had some pretty lively conversations in the time that I've known him, and it's always been great because we always end it with "Love you, brother. Talk to you later," or it's always, we might not always agree on everything, and it's perfectly fine. We don't always agree because if everybody agrees with you, then you're in the wrong room. Right. So I can definitely attest to that. Right Worshipful Rick Wendling is definitely a man of character that you might not always agree, but that's totally fine. We're still brothers at the end of the day.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah.
Who
And if you
best
don't
work
agree,
and best agree.
you just ask questions. Why do you think that? Why do you take that position? I'm curious. I'm sure you're more than willing to give them your point of view on anything they want to ask you.
I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to give wise counsel. I'm willing to take things into considerations. And I've had brothers come up to me and say, hey, why would you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? And I'm like, I never thought about that. That's a good idea.
Oh, so here's a
No, stop
deeper
saving the
question.
brothers' money.
No, I know. You were talking about young Masons, young pre-Masons even. But let's talk about young Masons actually coming into the craft today. They're actually craving deep esoteric philosophy and brotherhood because they're not getting it in the world. It's kind of a hard time. I feel bad for these generations coming up behind us because they don't have real friendships. They don't have real relationships, and they kind of don't trust any institutions. They largely don't trust any of them. So they're looking for something real and deep, and they want to learn about the esoteric part of Freemasonry, but they don't want to spend 3 hours talking about roof budgets. So how does Grand Lodge pivot from being a real estate management company to more of a philosophical society or brotherhood?
It's a good question.
Well, I know our Grand Secretary and our Grand Master and myself and the rest, we all want to get into the 21st century. We want to be able to put stuff online. Our younger Masons are so used to having things at their fingertips.
Yeah.
And you see it on their phones. And we need to have that engagement with them and have them be able to access. we've heard other candidates talk about teaching our esoteric work. Well, I understand that, but the way you understand, let's take the beehive, for instance.
One of
You
my
may
favorite
interpret the
symbols.
beehive. Yeah, exactly. You may take the beehive and understand it in one way, an aspect, and I'm going to understand it, and it's going to mean something to me in a different way. Is it fair for anybody to say, this is what the beehive means? This is what you need to understand that it means, and this should what it means to you? No, let's give them the tools and the resource to show, hey, here's some information on about the beehive. And let them understand and let them understand and have them.
They come up with their own answer to that question. And I think
Absolutely.
that is the heart of our fraternity. It's not a dogma. It tells you you have to think this way. It's a situation where it presents you with as many pieces of information as possible and invites you to use these tools to come to your own conclusions about how it applies to your life and what it means to
Yep.
you.
I've heard Right Worshipful Dragon have talked about some things, and even Right Worshipful Stell, they want to get social media going, YouTubes and stuff like that. And I think that's a fantastic idea. I mean, we need to get out there. We need to reach out. I mean, your initiative with the Facebook, I mean, that was huge, and it works in some, like I said, it works in some areas and doesn't work in some areas. Some lodges want to try it and they don't go by what you teach them,
Yeah.
and they try to do their own version, and they're like, "It doesn't work." I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
did you try it that way?" No.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about the symbolism and how everybody, the esoteric and everybody's going to take their own thing out of it, right? So I've been in a room of reflection and I took, a certain lesson out of it that maybe not everybody would have taken. But the one thing that cracks me up the most, and this is something that, Rick, if you're willing to dive into, cool. If not, no harm, no foul. But if you listen to some of these modern day podcasters like Candace Owens, right? I'm watching her show religiously just because I can't help but watch this train derail. It's one of those things, right? The house is on fire. I'm just going to sit there and watch it burn. But the beehive, she kept bringing up the beehive of Masons. They all think that we're just worker little bees and they're the ones that run the world. I was like, huh? So my question to you is this. I mean, and this, it wouldn't be a position like a formal position of the Grand Lodge or the Grand Line. Just asking your opinion on it. How do we combat some of this ignorant stuff that's going on? For example, Chris and I are going to have somebody on to discuss all the stuff that's been on Sean Ryan's podcast with some of the priests that they brought in and all the anti-Masonic rhetoric, which is picking up a tremendous amount these days. I mean, a ridiculous amount. So what should we as Masons be doing to try to combat some of that? Or should we? Should we just keep our mouth shut like we've done for the last 40, 50 years?
That's a tough question, because some of the stuff you have to ignore. Otherwise, we're just going to give fuel for the fire. But I think, in my opinion, getting out there in a positive light, getting out there in the community, helping out the first responders, helping out needy families during the holidays, getting that out in the live stream media is going to put a different light on us, in my opinion.
100%. I think that's true. Grew up with Masonry being this big scary secret organization and that is infiltrated in the governments and is running everything, right? So I had no interest in it and I had no history of it in my family that I knew of. So what got me to join was a documentary I saw on Netflix, and it was just guys, and they were talking about how Masonry's helped them, the guitarist, plumber, an executive at a company, and they were just telling their personal stories. And I told my wife, I gotta go. I gotta go to a lodge after I saw that. I'm like, I'm those guys. And I think I'd get something out of it like they did.
And I
And
think that's
so,
what Right Worshipful Stell's trying to do is get a YouTube channel started. I mean, I was told the other day, Facebook's for old people.
not
You
true.
know,
I'm on it. I don't think I'm old.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Nah, I saw the eye roll.
I did not say a word, good sir.
Uh, but we need to get out there on TikTok and the other social media platforms and start putting a positive light in and getting these young guys to be inquisitive and say, wonder what it's about. Let me go check them
Yeah.
out. And I think when they come to our lodges, hopefully they're going to get a good aspect. And that's one of the reasons why I want to cut the cost down on these G mobs. Because, like in the fire department, we get a new fire truck every 5 years, but we're living in a 30-year-old fire station or a 40-year-old fire station that hasn't been upgraded since it was new. Our lodges are like that. We need to bring our lodges into the 21st century. And we can't do that when we're spending $8,000 a year in a district for a Grand Master's official visit. Money's hard to come by these days. And, again, that's one of the things is we need to get back to the craft, get back to the level and the basics. Remember our roots and padding my travels. I vow right now that the only two other grand jurisdictions that I'm going to go to is Alabama and Georgia, because we do stuff with them. We do the tri-state degree with them. We do the 100-man Master Mason night with them. I don't think I should be spending the brothers' money to go to all these other grand jurisdictions for, yes, it's nice network, but talk on Zoom or Teams or on the phone.
You're not going to take a trip to the Caribbean on
No.
Masonry's dime.
Nope.
And that actually brings up another point, and this is more so me just kind of speaking to the brothers and just something that we can bounce off of. But Jordan Peterson talked about this at one point, and he was talking directly to churches, right? Where he was saying that young men today are lost. They don't have a home, right? They don't have any certain one thing they can go to and say, hey, you are welcomed here. And so his recommendation to the churches, which I think is phenomenal, is you should take out a billboard. You should put a sign outside of your church that, hey, men are welcomed here or young men are welcomed here. I think we should do the same thing with Masonry. I mean, growing up, the Masons had approached my dad before he passed away. They had approached my dad and wanted him to join here in Plant City. And he just didn't have the time to do it. He was very busy. He's running a very successful company at the time. So he just didn't have the time. So after my dad passed away, I went and talked to that older Mason that I mentioned earlier that said back in my day, we did it 3 times. But he actually showed me, he had his ring on. And I said, hey, you're a Freemason. And he said, yeah, I am. And he's, as a matter of fact, I tried to get your dad to join the lodge. And he looks at me and he goes, son, you ever need anything at all, you call me. And to this day, I could call that man and he will pick up the phone. He'll talk to me, just a phenomenal brother. So that actually started my journey of studying what Freemasonry is and what it is not before I ever joined. I mean, I've said it here on the podcast multiple times. I researched Masonry for over a decade before I ever approached the West Gate. Just because I wanted to know. And so whenever it comes to like the bad stuff that's out there about Masonry or the conspiracy theories or any of that stuff, I could tell you on average exactly where it came from. And so that's something that I just enjoy researching and looking at. But as far as our young people are concerned, man, there is no better place for them to be than in the lodge. Like a young man, 18 plus, get in the lodge. The whole reason I joined is because I didn't have an older male to look up to that I respected, not at my church, not, people that I was surrounded myself with. I just didn't have it. Now here I am in Masonry. And I've got mentors out the wazoo. I don't know what a wazoo is, but here we are. And especially Joe Rogers at my lodge, Worshipful Joe Rogers. I don't think I've ever met a better man than that. And I call him Grandpa Joe, and my daughter calls him Grandpa Joe. So we really got to start reaching out to these young people and getting them in the lodge.
We do. And I'm working with a brother that we both know. And I'm not going to mention his name out here, but he thinks outside the box when it comes to membership development, like Chris did back in the day, back when he was young.
Yeah, right. when I was more age appropriate for social media.
Yeah, whenever you had a little less salt in your beard.
Quick word association game. I say a word, you give me a 1-word answer. We'll only do like 5 or 6 of these. You ready?
Yep.
Initiation.
Interesting.
Yeah, make a mental note on that. We got to ask you about that. Gavel.
More interesting.
Oh, geez. Brotherhood.
Hey, on the gavel, though, a gavel is either light or heavy. So that's why I say it's more interesting.
Oh, okay.
Depends on the person wielding it.
Yeah. There's a lot of different kinds of gavels, too.
Yes.
Brotherhood.
Friendship.
Blessing.
Too much money.
Authentic.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Authentic.
Trueness.
Honor.
Humble.
And last one, love.
Brotherhood.
Nice. I think you passed that test. We actually, Matt, you've got at least a couple questions we can take up those last few minutes, right?
Yeah. So basically, Rick, what mine is kind of just, I want to lay out a 3-year period and just kind of get your take on it and kind of where it's going. So you have now been a part of Most Worshipful Tally's year. If you can give us like a quick recap of, the feedback around the state, because you went to all the GMOVs, just kind of like a recap from around the state of what were the brothers' response to Most Worshipful Tally's year. You kind of give us like a 30,000 foot overview of Most Worshipful Vest's year, because we've already seen him come out swinging, and I am here for it, believe me. And then finally, again, what can the brothers expect with your year, and how are you going to use those 2 years of predecessors as kind of like building blocks, right? Or a step to get to your year. What are you going to emulate from their years?
Most Worshipful Atala started to turn the ship in the right direction. He didn't create any confrontations, and he kept an even keel. He allowed us to speak as Grand Lodge officers at the GMOVs on anything we wanted. and allowed us a little bit of freedom. So he was starting to turn us in the right direction. Most Worshipful Vest, as you saw, he is probably the most kindest and loving person I have met so far in the Grand Lodge Lobby. He cares about everybody. He wants to be fair with everybody, as you can see with his ruling and decision, and he wants to do right by everybody. And he's continuing to turn us in the right direction. And from those two, I've learned I don't want any confrontation, and I want to continue to spread the brotherly love in the fraternity and continue us to move forward and to start recouping our losses with the brothers. And I'm open to ideas and how we can do that, get our young men in. I've got ideas on pillars of our community and how to get them in. It's, again, we've had some rough and rugged roads, and it's ours to travel, and we just need to continue to move forward. Put one of the optimist things is, and I just posted it on Facebook the other day, let's forget the mistakes of the past, press on to the greater achievement of the futures. And that can't be more true. And I think that's what we need to do is we need to stop dwelling in the past, and let's continue to focus on the positives and move forward. And I think we'll start mending and healing, and it's going to be the fraternity that we all want.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Right Worshipful Deputy Grand Master Rick Wendling joining us. Rick, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Definitely, at least for me, you're welcome back anytime. I imagine for Chris as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. So, Rick, any final thoughts?
It's an honor to be. I'm glad you guys asked me to, and I'm glad that Most Worshipful Vest allowed me to do this. It's been a long time coming, and we got to continue this. And anytime you guys want to do it again, please reach out. An open book. You guys know that. You guys know me pretty well, and let's continue to move forward together, because that's how we're going to do it, is together.
There you go. Chris, my brother, any final thoughts?
Just really like to thank you for coming on. We have recorded other podcasts that will never see the light of the day just due to the bad timing of when we recorded them. And I really want to thank you personally as someone who went through some dark times in Freemasonry. There were some good friends that helped me get through it. And two of you on this show are in a very small group of those people. So I really want to thank you guys. A lot of brothers don't realize when a brother's in need is the time you should be their friend. And too many brothers, when they see you're in need, just want to be away from you and not part of whatever you're going through. But you guys aren't those kind of Masons. So I greatly want to take this opportunity to thank you for your friendship and standing by your brother when he needed you. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, it was an honor to have lunch with you at Grand Lodge and Brother Stephen Clark too. So it was an honor to get to meet him, and glad I met him. So thank you for the introduction.
Those were interesting times.
Yes.
Unprecedented, some would say.
Unprecedented time. How about you, Brother Stone? Anything for the brothers or our guests before we go?
No, just as usual. May peace and brotherly love prevail.
With that, On the Level podcast is